I do want to ask you about Earl Snead, who you just mentioned. And frankly, this is the one, I have to tell you, Mark, I've known you for years and years. And when I read what happened here, I can't put together how the person I know and have talked to for a long time okayed a lot of this stuff. And for people who aren't familiar, Earl Snead was the team beat writer for the Mavericks team website, one of them. And he was arrested outside the office, right at work, for beating his fiancée so badly he left her visibly bruised and with a broken wrist she went to the hospital for. He pled guilty to that in court, and you not only didn't fire him, you offered to pay his legal expenses.
Well, no, okay, that's not from what the information I had was just coming from Earl. Okay.
His fiancée emailed you directly also, according to the investigation.
Right. The information I had, though, came, I sent it back to HR, and then the information I got was from Earl. And again, one in multiple mistakes as applies here, I just took his word, and the first time. And again, I took his word. We didn't follow up. I didn't request an investigation. I didn't ask for the police report. I deferred to the CEO.
Mm-hmm. There was a second incident, though. You said the first time he started actually dating a fellow coworker, and because you guys hadn't even suspended him or anything, the women in the office didn't know that he was someone who had beaten up his fiancée and who had broken her bones, and that the other Mavericks employee, he got violent with her. She came to work the next day with visible bruises and swelling in her chest and face and arms. And she said she didn't feel safe in the office. And again, you guys didn't fire him. And this is where I kind of break down on why.
We can have a discussion there.
Yeah, tell me.
Because, again, in hindsight, I would have done it differently. Young African-American man, and this is 2014, and I had a decision to make. And the decision was, do I just fire him? And my fear, and it's documented in the report and talking to the investigators, my fear if I just said, okay, you're fired, what's he going to do next? And what happens to the next person? And that's what I was thinking to myself. And so I set a series of rules for him that he had to be accompanied. He had to go to counseling, and there was a variety of things to keep an eye on him.
I know I'm not the first person to point out to you that you could have removed him from the workplace
and that's what I said.
and
that's
still
what I told
gotten him
right.
counseling.
No, and in hindsight, you're exactly right. I'm just telling you what I thought. Yeah, and I said the same thing publicly, and I said the same thing to investigators. If I had to do it all over again, I would fire him and still got him counseling.
What message do you think, now that you have gone through all of this, what message do you now know that this sent the other women in the office?
Oh, it's horrible.
That you basically told them, hey, one of the guys in this office can hit you, and we will keep him still here coming to the office and sitting next to you.
Again, I have no excuse. There's just, I should have done better, I could have done better. I've learned, and I just have, there's just no other way to put it.
I mean, in talking to you and reading all this, it does seem like another real lesson that you have absorbed through this is that it's not just about these specific behaviors, it's about the environment you set up, right? So even just as recently as the beginning of this calendar year, the report details that in your business office, so this isn't even just, oh gee, there's basketball players and trainers, and of course they're male over on the basketball side, but just in the business office, 70% of the employees were male, only 30% were female. There were 0 women who were at the executive level to where they would be in the top level meetings. There were 0 people of color, and that even the women who did work there, their salaries were not competitive with sort of the commensurate men who did those jobs at other NBA franchises. What kind of environment do you think that set up in your business?
Well,
and
obviously
sort of
not
the worth of women.
Right, obviously not a good one. And once it came to my attention, we immediately jumped in to fix it. It wasn't one that was acceptable. It's not something that's going to happen going forward. We immediately stepped in and brought in a CEO that brought all this to my attention, and I gave her carte blanche to do what she needed to do, because it's not right, and it's not even good business. And so we're doing everything possible to fix it.
One of the things the NBA announced today is that you personally will donate $10 million to women's organizations, charities, And that is going to strike some people as very significant because the maximum the league is supposed to be able to fine a team owner is $2.5 million. So that's 4 times that amount. It will strike some people as, hey, this guy's a billionaire. That's not that significant at all. He didn't lose his team. He didn't, any of the more sort of basketball related things. What do you think of that decision?
I think more important than the money is the example we can set, because there hasn't been anybody who really has who had to go through this and set the tone on what's the right way to respond and what's the right thing to do. And so the goal, even more than the money, is for me to get out there and teach others from my experiences.
Was there any point through all this where Adam Silver discussed selling the team with you?
No.
Was there ever a point you considered it yourself?
No. I don't run away from my mistakes.
I know that the day the Sports Illustrated article came out, you came down and addressed the Mavericks employees at the office. And there are former employees mentioned in this report who felt they had to leave the company, things were so bad, had to leave the profession because they couldn't get another job after sort of unceremoniously leaving your company. Have you called to talk to any of them, to apologize to any of them?
No.
Should you?
I mean, I don't know the circumstances. I don't know the individuals themselves because of the way the report's structured.
If one of those employees wants to identify herself and come to you and reach out to you to get some closure, are you open to that?
Yeah, I talked to the investigators because, again, I don't know what promises they made. I just don't know if I'd be the right person to try to solve it.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody would like to talk to you personally. So
I'm not closing any doors.
Yep.
I'm just trying. I don't want to violate the privacy. You know what I'm saying.
So the final phase of the investigators' report is recommending changes, check marks that they have for your organization. So I want to talk about that in the next segment. And I want to bring in the new CEO you've been mentioning throughout this, Cynthia Marshall. So she's going to join us after this. Please stay with us.